From QEX 16, this is Sports Talk, where fans, guests, and Beano Cook collide each night. Now, the man for whom sports is not just an obsession, but a job, Beano Cook.
Good evening. The name of the show is Sports Talk, and we're on it on time tonight at 10:30. No pledge drive. WQED is, selling everything today, but we're just going to do sports, and we're on it on time, and we're grateful for that. Before we go to our guest, interesting guest, and we're not going to talk about the Steeler draft. We're going to give you something different. First, the Islanders and the Flyers. On Long Island, the Flyers are winning 3-1 in the third period, and Montreal's winning 6-2 over Quebec in the third period. And the San Francisco 49ers tonight got Steve Young, quarterback, BYU, Tampa, and gave up number 2 and number 4 draft choices. Well, rugby really was the forerunner of football, and there is a rugby team in Pittsburgh, and we have 2 guests tonight who will play in a tournament this weekend. Far right, Neal Brendel, 32, a graduate of Sarah High School, a graduate of Yale and Virginia Law School, and to my immediate right, Lee Goodman, a graduate of Bowling Green from Cleveland, Ohio, and works for Executive Report, a very good magazine. If you don't get it, you should, here in Pittsburgh. And I want to ask first, Neal, you're 32. Are you married?
No, I'm not.
Okay, are you, Lee?
No.
Okay, that's probably why you're allowed to play this rugby. Tell us about, Neal, this weekend and team, and why do you do it? I know you wrestled at Yale. I had a wrestling scholarship to Yale, and why do you do this? You're nuts. But tell us about tomorrow at South Park.
Okay, tomorrow at South Park is the format for selecting the club to represent the Midwest Rugby Union.
For the Final Four.
It's the Final Four of rugby in Tampa, Florida. And
May 8th and 9th for those who want to, get airplane reservations early for $2 round trip.
That's right. We'll get a group fare together here. But we're having 4 teams in. We're hosting it this year, and the other teams are the Chicago Lions Rugby Football Club, the Milwaukee Rugby Football Club, and the Louisville Rugby Football Club. So we're down to the Final Four of the Midwest, and we're going to pick our representative to the United States
Well, you have a
Championship.
Tournament, don't you?
That's right.
That's right. You don't pick, you win it.
That's right, absolutely.
Okay, now, are there any football players you know of, on any of the visiting teams, or do you have any former football players who played in college?
Yeah, we have some ball players on the team.
Who are they? I mean, that played college football.
Oh, we've got Lou Lamana. He played a season or 2 at Pitt.
Okay, just curious. But why do you do it? You're 26, you're working, both of you are single, and why do you do it? You have to be crazy.
Well, I never really played a sport in high school. And I guess I was too small, and I didn't really do that much in college, but I was always like to get in a lot of, pickup games. And I got into rugby my last year of college, and I liked it.
At Bowling Green?
Yeah. And I moved to Erie for my first job. I didn't really know anybody. So
Erie that would drive you to rugby. Or
and but I met a guy who played just by chance and started to play with him, and all of a sudden I met about 40 guys, and I got into the game a little more, and it's...
What position do you play?
I play wing. I'm in the back line.
And what do you play now?
I'm a prop.
Prop. What is a prop? How many on each team?
15.
15. And you carry the ball, and isn't that...
It's constant movement. It's like soccer.
Do the zebras ruin the game? Do you have flags? One official?
One official.
Oh, right away I'm for it, even though you are a lawyer.
No, it's great. You only have one official, you have 30 players, and there's no way he can control everything.
In other words, if somebody called a scrum, is it?
That's right.
Yeah, that's. And so, why do you play? You're 32. It makes more sense he's in his 20s, but you're 32. Prosperous lawyer. Why would you do this?
I've taken care of myself, so I feel good. I can continue to play.
You practice tonight.
That's right.
Under the lights.
That's right.
Where? South Park?
South Park. That's not our home field. Our home field's here in Pittsburgh. We usually practice at Shenley Oval or Frick Park, but we wanted to get accustomed to the field we're going to be using tomorrow, so we went out to South Park.
Now, what time are the games tomorrow?
The first game...
What's the lid lifter?
Okay, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Pittsburgh versus Louisville.
Okay.
And 3
Chicago
o'clock
versus Milwaukee.
Right, 3.
Okay, now, the games are divided into halves? I mean, like football, isn't it? Give us a rundown of the game. I mean, you know, the rules and the basics. I hope there are no riots the way they had one in London or England a couple of years ago and 80 people killed. But tell us about that. How many in each team?
Well, there are 15 people on each team, and there's two 40-minute halves.
Two 40-minute halves.
Yeah, 5 minute in.
And no timeouts, right?
There's injury timeouts, but no called timeouts.
And injury timeouts have to be either 2 broken limbs or death.
Well, you have to be down.
You have to be down. Okay.
And the ref calls it, not the player.
I see.
And then you get 1 minute or 2 minutes at most to either get up and play or get off.
And once he's off, he can't come in back in it at all? Can he come in the next half, or he's out for the whole game?
If he goes off and they don't substitute for him, he can come back in.
That's right.
But if they substitute for him, then he's off.
So they could have a power play, 15 against 14.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's right. Okay. Be like the Penguins. Nobody, you know, you're in trouble.
Occasionally somebody gets sent off.
That's right.
Yeah.
For how? How, Neal?
Well, unsportsmanlike, blatant unsportsmanlike
A
conduct.
knife? No knee.
no.
Kneeing's okay, I guess.
It depends on where you
To
do
be
it.
discreet
Like I
about
said, there's only one ref and there are 30 players, so, you know, use your imagination.
Now, out of this came football, right? I mean, they used to play rugby in this country at one time, right? And
That's
out
right.
of that came football.
That's right.
Okay. And also the zebras, 5 of them, in instant replay. The scoring, how does it work?
There's 3 ways to score. You score by ultimately placing the ball over the goal line and touching it down.
You have to touch it down.
Right.
That's right.
And
you run it over, and what if he tackles you or get? In other words,
well, all you have to do is be momentum going forward, touch the ball down.
But you have to
touch it, right?
Which is where touchdown came
Right.
from. Okay. Now, how many points is that?
That's 4.
4.
And then you can kick a conversion. Now, ideally, you want to touch the ball down in between the goalposts because where you touch it down, you come back out 22 yards to kick the conversion.
Oh, I see.
So if you touch it in the corner, you're going to have kind of a
trouble.
tough kick. Yeah.
And that's how many points?
That's 2.
2. And
So when you're going in there, the play's not over because the defenders will still chase you even though you're in the zone to prevent you from getting in between the posts.
Oh, that's right. So that's why you have to touch it down there. I see. Okay, now where's the other score? How do you get the other points? 4 and 2?
You can drop kick it anywhere, anytime on the field for 3.
Which is where the drop kick came from. Which Pat O'Day from Wisconsin is probably the most famous field goal kicker in the history of college football. So it's 4, 3, and 2. What were some of the scores this year you had? I'm curious. Not that there's going to be an over and under on this game.
25 to 3, I guess was last week's score.
What is your record so far?
We're about, what, 6-1?
6-1, yeah.
We lost in overtime in a tournament in Washington, D.C.
On St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Right. So we lost to the Washington Rugby Football Club. That's our only loss this year.
How many people came out for the team, and when did you start practice? I mean, how do you, let's say this season ends, and ironically, even after the Final Four, you play some more games, but those are really exhibition games because the champion is decided on the 9th of May.
We're building for next year's tournament already.
Okay, now let's say the season's over. When does it end? In June?
Early June.
Okay, now start me up until next season. I mean, how do you have tryouts? How many players come out?
Well, in the summertime, they play a lot of what they call sevens, which is like a summer version of rugby where you only have 7 players on a team. A lot of passing, a lot of open field running. It's what you do in the summer to stay in shape and develop your ball handling. We'll get a squad together and we'll go to some tournaments in the summertime. We'll practice here in the evenings once or twice a week. It's more voluntary.
You play that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And then around August, we start gearing up for the Keystone Games, which they play out at Penn State every fall.
Oh,
they have rugby in that, and you know we send a team out there, and that's like our preseason.
How have you done in that?
We won it last
year. Yeah. So.
Okay, now what happens after the Keystone game?
Then September, late August, we really start serious practice for our fall season. Rugby
has fall season.
It's spring and fall sport.
You're worse than hockey. Okay, now who do you play in the fall? Do we have a Final Four again?
No, we play our league matches to determine who qualifies for the Final Four in the spring.
Oh, I see. But that's when it starts?
Well, they go on. The league matches go on between spring and fall. That's why even after the national championships, some of those games are important. They're league games that will help us qualify for the Midwest in the next year.
Now, how did you qualify? Is there always a Pittsburgh team in this tournament?
No.
Whom did you have to beat to make the regionals?
We're in a what they call a senior league, and there are about 7, 8 teams in our league. And the Midwest is broken into about 20, 30 senior clubs, and then with 3 major leagues. And then you play round robin competition during the year. Team with the best record then represents that region in the Midwest.
Okay. How many teams are there in the country of which these 4 are going to make Tampa? In other words, they started with, like the NCAA basketball tournament, the season starts with 280 teams and 4 end up at the Final Four. Do you have any idea how many teams there are in the country, either of you?
I would guess that senior club teams.
Your type of teams.
Yeah, senior level teams, I would guess a couple hundred.
Okay. Now, where is the best rugby played?
Right now, California.
California. And do the colleges have teams, don't they, out there? They have club teams.
That's right.
That's right.
And there's a club championship now, and they pick a rugby All-American team, and they have their own tournament, and it's gotten, in the last 5 years, very evolved.
Okay, now where do you get your money? Do you sell raffles, cookies, knock on doors?
We have dues that each member pays, but other than
how
that,
much?
what was it this year?
About 70
bucks.
Well, you don't. If I recall, you don't wear uniforms, do you? Well, I mean,
Well,
with uniforms, but you don't wear a lot of padding.
We don't need a lot of equipment, so everyone has to pay for their own equipment, their own cleats, their own
What does it
uniforms.
cost you a year? Out of your, being a lawyer, it's no problem, but how much does it cost you a year?
I mean, I wouldn't even want to guess. I'd be embarrassed to say. It'll cost me a lot of money.
$1,000 bucks?
Well, see, I play on 4 different teams.
Well, how much have you just played on one team?
If
you played on this
If you
team.
played on one team, I think you could do it for a couple $100.
Yeah, that's about what it costs me.
You play on 4 teams.
Yeah.
What are the other teams? I'm impressed.
Well, see, there's
For a kid from Sarah High, you've come a long way.
some people would argue that point, but there are different
Especially
levels.
the ones who are in jail. Go ahead.
There
my man.
are different. You can get into the sport. There's different levels you can participate in, depending on how excited you are about it and how much time you want to give to it. But we have like a conference, and we play in the Ohio Conference.
Oh, I see.
And then they pick an all-star team, and then they go play other
Are you an
conferences.
all-star?
I play for the Ohio Conference team.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're pretty
Okay.
good.
Then the Ohio Conference is part of the Midwest Union, and they're like
Oh.
the Ohio Conference, the Wisconsin, the Milwaukee. I mean, all these different conferences. And then they pick an all-star team, which is the Midwest team. And then the Midwest team will play the Eastern team or the Western team
So
or the
you play
Pacific
this all
team.
year long, basically.
Basically.
Yeah. Do you too?
I've begun to in the last year or so, a little bit more. So
He's coming along. We're getting
You
him
guys
there.
are unbelievable. We're going to the phone, gentlemen. You're on Sports Talk, and it isn't about the draft. Go ahead.
Hello, Beano.
Yes.
This is Joe Klemarich, and I'm a good friend of Neal Brendel. And
Well, we don't.
Goodman.
We don't give names. You know.
Okay, well, listen,
But
I
do
just-
what you want. Ask my guests.
First of all, I think your program's excellent.
I don't know about that. We can't get a backer, but
Well, my question was that for both those gentlemen on the set, what were their most memorable moments in rugby? I thought that might be an interesting question for the viewers.
we start with you.
my most memorable moment in rugby was a couple years ago in the fall, and we were playing our biggest rival from Columbus, and we were down by 10 points with about 10 minutes to go. All the momentum was against us, and we ended up scoring 11 points in about 8 minutes and winning the game at the very end.
That's 4-4-3. You did that.
And
Somebody
right, and there
drop
was,
kicked it?
well, I think there were some inspirational plays. One at the beginning where one of our players who ended up getting knocked out because he hit somebody so hard kind of inspired us on to victory there, I think.
Okay. You, Neal?
Well, that's a tough question.
You've had no
I mean,
inspiring moments?
my most memorable game is my last game, I guess, that I played. I've had, a lot of good games and a lot of fun. If I had to pick a game, it was the time I played for the United States when we beat Canada in 1984 in Chicago.
Is that the Olympics?
That's not the Olympics.
No,
it's
but I
just
thought maybe a prelim to the Olympics.
well, we're not in the Olympics. So
No rugby in the
we
Olympics.
just play. We just get together and call up another country and see if they'll come over and play us. And we don't.
That's better than having a war with them.
That's right. We have the war on the field,
Make
and we're
rugby,
done with
not
it.
war.
That's right.
Okay. We're going another phone call. You're on Sports Talk.
Hello, I'd like to know how to get involved and be able to come out and play for the Pittsburgh Club.
You want to start?
Sure.
Give them a phone number.
Well, the phone number to call would be 421-3863, and the gentleman is the captain of our team. His name is Brian McHugh.
421.
3863.
And it's not a porno phone call. Won't cost you 50 cents.
And I mean, we welcome new players at any time, whether they've played before or whether they've never played and they just want to learn the game and think they can do well at it.
Okay, caller. Thank you. Best rugby player you've ever seen in the whole country. Best one. Oh, who is supposed to be the best rugby player?
I'll tell you what, the best rugby right now is probably played in Australia.
Well, who's, I mean, in this country,
In this
who's
country?
the best player you've ever played against? Or who is supposed to be the Superman? Maybe you haven't seen him play.
I don't think we have a Superman. We don't have one player.
You don't have an O.J. Simpson or a Jimmy Brown or a Dan Marino or Joe Montana? You don't have some superstar like that?
No.
You don't?
No.
It's balanced. Well, that's okay.
pretty balanced. It's parity, you know, as they say.
Parity, which means in many cases mediocrity. You're on Sports Talk.
Hello, I have a question for Mr. Brendel and Mr. Goodwin. And I'm an Australian who's travelling from overseas, and I'm just wondering whether or not it's an international game and whether you get many people coming from overseas to play the game.
I'll field that one. You know, you get a lot of guys who are drifting around, and especially from the Southern Hemisphere, and it's a cheap way to see the United States, come over to a city, stay a while. We've got a few people like that on our team right now, believe it or not. They've come in from Australia, and they're just kicking around, enjoying the city a little bit, getting bounced around in the local pubs and playing some rugby and moving on.
Do they sing Waltzing Matilda?
No, I've never heard them sing that.
One yet.
Well, that's the national anthem, guy. But okay, any other questions?
Oh, no, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. You're on Sports Talk.
Yeah, as a local high school student, I was wondering if there's any way I could get into the sport.
Sure. As I said before, you know, Brian McHugh is our
Let's
captain.
put that
and
phone number up. What's that number?
The number is 421-3863.
421-38.
63.
Okay.
And Brian would be happy to let you know where it is. He'd even pick you up, really, if you needed a ride to practice.
We might have to get a release from the parents, though, before we let them out.
Yeah.
But other than that, we've had a few exceptional cases where we've had some. Actually, from the school right down the road here, Central, we've had a few kids who decided to hang up high school football and come down and play some rugby.
Well, it's actually rougher in high school football.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Rugby's brutal.
Got to be in better shape.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Those in pro football, a guy runs one deep pattern 2 out of 3 times. He doesn't play the next play. You know, he's exhausted. Okay, caller, anything else?
No, that's thanks.
Okay. You're on Sports Talk.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to know from Neal and Mr. Goodwin what the most amazing World Cup match they ever played was.
The most what?
Turn it up. They wanted to know about the amazing World Cup match they ever saw.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's
Probably seen
stuff.
more
I've
than
seen
I
a lot of films. This is the first World Cup is coming up. They've never had a World Cup before this year. This is the first one they're going to have.
Where are they going to have it? Tell us about
It's
that.
going to be in Australia and New Zealand. And 16 teams are invited. And they're going to have broken down into 4 divisions of 4 teams each. The top 2 teams advance to a final single elimination match.
Now there will be teams from America?
There'll be a United
How
States team there.
All-star team or one? I mean,
One all-star team
There'll be an
representing the United
all-star team.
States. These are all national teams that will be there.
in other words, it won't be like it. In other words, it won't be a team. It'll be an all-star team.
That's right. There'll be an all-star team from the United States.
How
and
will
they'll-
they pick the all-star team?
From the regional all-star team.
Oh,
they've,
I
they've
see.
already picked that team.
Are you on it?
Yep.
So you might go to Australia.
I'm leaving in 3 weeks.
Yeah, you said that. 3 weeks. That's
That's right.
unbelievable.
Providing I don't have anything scheduled in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay, I think, what are we going to a break or, okay. Keep the phones ringing. We can give that phone number again for Brian McHugh. What the heck? But don't get that phone number mixed up with ours, but call if you want. We're going to take a break and be back after this.
When the boys went over there, they went from housewives to hardball to keep America's pastime alive and swinging.
We were expected to be able to play a man's sport, play it like a man, and still be very ladylike.
They were the stars of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And oh, how they played.
My best year was in 1946. That year, I stole 201 bases. Getting the dirt in the skirt, that's rough.
My brother was in the South Pacific fighting the war, and my mother got more gray hairs hearing all the junk that I was doing.
This game was way, way ahead of its time. They began to make the old game look easy.
It's the old ball game with a twist on A League of Their Own. The story of women's professional baseball.
Thursday, May 21st at 9:30 p.m. America has its Ronnie, but Britain has the two Ronnies, and they're here weeknights at 11:30.
Now, if all that sounds complicated, here is an easy guide.
Ronnie Barker, the big guy, and Ronnie Corbett, the shrimp, little guy, starred as Britain's top TV comedy team for years. Now they invade Pittsburgh.
Here are some hands across the sea. And here is an empty bucket. And here is a picture of the Prime Minister. But things aren't as bad as that.
Their satires sting. Their sketches, well, they're very nice charcoal renditions, and they're sometimes, well, raunchy, but funny.
Tickle your body with a feather tonight.
I beg your pardon?
I said particularly grotty weather tonight.
Oh, yes.
Go to sleep with a smile on your face. The Two Ronnies, weeknights at 11:30 here on QEX, Channel 16.
The name of the show is Sports Talk, and basically these are friends who have been calling so far, except one call. We do get a lot of calls who, just guys who call in, but it's okay. They're asking good questions, and we're going right to the phone. Sports Talk.
Yes, I'd like to know more about this tournament coming up tomorrow and Sunday. Could you tell us when the times are, who's playing?
We already did, 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Yep.
Louisville plays Pittsburgh at South Park.
What about the championship day, the following day? I didn't hear anything about that.
That's obvious they would play.
Yeah, but what time are they playing?
12 o'clock, consolation finals, and 2 o'clock is the championship finals on Sunday.
Okay, and where exactly is this at in South Park?
It's the fairgrounds, the stadium.
Is there a charge? Or do you pass the hat?
No, no charge. Just,
no charge?
Just buy some of our refreshments while you're there.
T-shirts. T-shirts.
Programs, beer.
Okay, I just wanted the public to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're apparently the publicity man for your team. You're on Sports Talk. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to know, are there any women rugby players?
What?
Are there any women rugby players?
Not on our team, but there are some women's teams, and I think there is one in Pittsburgh called the Pittsburgh Angels. And they play rugby, and they have a team. I don't know. I could give you a telephone number. I don't really
Don't give
recall.
Brian McHughes. You might not be able to handle it. So there is a women's.
Yeah, there is women's rugby. This is one of the only countries in the world that does it, but there is women's rugby.
Have you ever played against a women's rugby team?
No. Never had that experience.
Oh, okay, my dear. Where do you play during the regular season?
We play at Lower Frick Park, off Hutchison on Braddock.
Oh, yes, yes. And do they have stands? Do you have stands there, or do people just...
We've never had that problem where we needed stands.
Well, I thought, if you get a couple hundred people. How many people do come out for your games?
50.
Yeah. We brought about 50 loyal
fans. Do you get publicity at all? I mean, in the papers, every so often I see something, but I don't see that much.
We're improving, but we've been so into our sport, we really haven't paid much attention to promoting it.
You don't really care about the publicity, do you?
Well,
you like to have it. I mean,
I think we like to have it mainly for the reason of people find out about it and recruiting-wise. I mean, the more people find out about it, the more people call and want to play, and builds our team up.
How come out for your team next year?
We get about 40 or 50
40
people.
or 50, yeah.
And how many in the squad? 15 play.
Well, we have a
two
couple
or three teams. We feel
like how many would dress tomorrow?
We have 2 games tomorrow. We have our starting unit, and then we arranged another match for the people who didn't get picked for the starting unit to play another team.
You guys are brutal.
Because
but how many would dress for your game tomorrow with
22.
Louisville? 22.
But on a normal week, we'd have 30. We'd have a first game, and then we'd have a second game. All the teams we play have.
But when you're playing regulation, tournament rugby, you're only allowed to dress 22.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
You're only allowed 7 reserves.
and very seldom will more than one get in. Is that safe to say?
You're only allowed 2 injury substitutions, max.
In other words, if 4 guys get hurt,
you play 13 men.
Well, that's a real power play for the other team. 15.
And that's a relatively new rule. It used to be there were no substitutions for injury.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. In the last 10 years, they've liberalized that.
With the 15 players, if there are no injuries, will the same 15 players play for you tomorrow, the whole game?
Yes. You mean after the first game, the second game?
No, first game. You're playing Louisville.
Okay.
With the same 15, let's say you have no injuries. Will 15 players play the whole game for you?
Yes.
Okay, in other words...
There's no substitution.
You don't sub, no.
No substitution.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. 40-minute halves.
Right.
Okay, now, do we have any phone calls?
55.
50. Is that this one, Mike? We're very informal here. You're on Sports Talk.
Yeah, hi. I'm new in the city, and I'm trying to play some rugby. I've heard of the Harlequins. I was wondering if you guys knew anything about the Pittsburgh Harlequins.
They're somewhat of our arch rival in the city, just both being from Pittsburgh. They're the team we played last week.
Must be a Harlequin calling.
Did you beat them? You had to.
Yeah, we beat them 28-3.
They got on the board, though. I mean, so it was a good showing for them.
I mean, how many times have you played them this year?
We play them once a year.
Once a year.
We tried to schedule them twice, but they would only play us once.
Is it like Pitt Penn State? Bitter?
It's bitter on the field, yeah.
It is. No, why? Who are these guys?
They're just another Pittsburgh, another group.
Where do they
Pittsburgh.
play? I mean,
they play up in Fox Chapel.
Up at Fox Chapel. And you play them once a year, and you beat them 28-3. Okay, that's good enough. Thanks a lot, caller. I don't know if he had any other questions. Next line. I'm already on this.
Next line. Do the next line.
Okay, you're on Sports Talk. Hello.
Hi. I'd like to talk to one of the rugby players.
Okay, talk to Lee.
Hi, Lee. Hey, Lee, I enjoy watching you guys. I'm from Mount Washington, and I noticed you guys played a couple times in Olympia Park down there. But my question is when you get in that huddle and the ball is underneath there somewhere and there's a bunch of guys pushing around, what is going on down there?
Nothing dirty.
Well, the point is for the guys who are standing above it to try to push over the ball so that their team can have possession of it. So they're trying to push this way and the other team is trying to push this way, and whoever ends up over the ball is the team who has possession of it and gets it out to the backs who usually do most of the scoring.
Every drawing I've ever seen of a rugby game has 8,000 people on the ball. You would never think anybody...
That's a scrum, I guess, is what most people associate with it. It's our face-off. It's how we get the ball back in play when there's been a stoppage.
I see. Does that answer the question, caller? Okay. Is this line open? Okay. You're on Sports Talk.
Hello. I know that rugby developed into football, and I was wondering if you could tell me exactly, like a comparison between the positions of football and rugby. Like, who's the quarterback?
Yeah, would you handle that?
Who's the lineman?
Neil?
Sure. Well, every team has to have a field general, and in rugby, it's usually the fly half. Sometimes if you have a scrum half who knows the game, he'll be the quarterback. But he's the link man between the forwards, who are the bigger guys who chase the ball down and get it, and then there's the backs, who are the supposedly
How many
fleeter
backs
fellas.
are there?
But there are about 7 backs.
7 backs.
And there are 7 forwards,
And
8 forwards.
8 forwards, okay.
And, you know, one of the backs is what I would refer to as a link man. And he transfers the ball from the forwards to the backs and directs the game, whether to kick it, whether to run with it, whether to give it to the forwards, put it out of bounds.
Yeah. I mean, can you pass forward? Or does everything, that's what I thought, everything has to, it can't be straight, it has to be back, right?
That's right.
Okay, we got it, caller. We got about 35 seconds. Are you going to win one for Pittsburgh tomorrow, or will you win tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Are you going to predict victory?
Absolutely. We're predicting victory.
Okay, against Louisville. And who will win the Cincinnati-Milwaukee?
Chicago-Milwaukee.
Chicago,
it's going to be
Milwaukee.
Chicago.
Chicago will win. Okay. And there will be tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock and the championship game at 2 o'clock at the South Park Fairgrounds. We want to thank Neil and Lee for taking time after a rugged practice. The show is Sports Talk, and we're going to be here Monday night. No.
We'll be here Tuesday and Friday next week.
Next week, it's only Tuesday and Friday at
Point Park College Pioneers on Tuesday.
Point Park Pioneers on Tuesday,
Bill
maybe
Rogers.
with a record.
Bill Rogers and you on Friday.
Bill Rogers, the runner, next Friday night. Until then, good night.